All right, let me share my screen.
Make sure that you get everything set up the way you need it here. And then I'm gonna, perfect, yep, I can see your slides in presenter mode, so you're good to go. I'm gonna back out and let you take over, and the floor is yours.
All right. Well, thank you very much for inviting me. I've enjoyed the conference very much. Want to just give a little bit of my background. My name is Keith Chapman. I work at a company called Belcan in Cincinnati, Ohio. I work as a senior cybersecurity analyst. Before that, I have been a lifelong artist. I enjoy doing vector art primarily these days, but I like all types of art. I have a degree in filmmaking, and I have been an art teacher in the past. I worked with first grade all the way up to 12th grade. So I want to tell you about our internship program we've been doing at Belcan. We have a cyber academy that we established a couple years ago, and in which time we've done classroom instruction, training for industry credentials, and internships. So this talk is for you if you want to see how imagination can be applied to develop the next generation of cybersecurity professionals. So my goal with this talk is to show ways to incite the imagination of the next generation so they can see themselves differently. So how did I get here? Let me tell you my cybersecurity origin story. I started off as a computer hobbyist, and I broke a lot of things. So breaking a lot of things allowed me to learn how to fix a lot of things. And then from there, I went to become a cable guy, which I learned how to do a lot of troubleshooting. Spent 4 years doing that and learned a lot of really solid troubleshooting skills. One of the big formative ones, though, was working as a call center rep for an ISP. And that was important because I learned how to fix things that I couldn't see. And I had to use my imagination to create solutions for things that I just couldn't see because I'm over the phone. And so I was able to draw on a lot of my experience as a cable guy and remember what I seen in the field and fix things. Wasn't a big fan of working in a call center, but it was a good skill to learn. And from there, I enjoyed learning about routers, and I went to the help desk. On the help desk, I learned about incident response, and I got really interested in cybersecurity at that point. I would do vulnerability management and also trace down alerts that we would get. From there, I became a system administrator, and I started taking cyber courses with Cisco. Now, at this point, I'm wanting to go more into cybersecurity, but I realized I kind of hit a block. And the thing was, I really couldn't imagine myself doing a job in cybersecurity. And so I call that a failure of imagination. And I saw the same sort of thing when I was doing the internship program with the students that were coming into Belcan. So this talk is a result of what we learned doing that and how I think we can help more students and more people wanting to get into cybersecurity. So let's talk about what cybersecurity looks like now. Right now, there is a lack of diversity in cybersecurity, which tends to create a lack of diversity of thought. And the reason why that's dangerous is there are new attacks every day. And besides that, there's a lot of information we're responsible for learning, and there's a constant learning curve. The heart of cybersecurity or information security isn't technology, it's people. And that's the primary reason why I think that we need imagination. So, disclaimer, I find imagination fascinating. I'm not a scientist, and these are just observations that I've made. So one quote that was formative in helping me to understand this a little bit better was by a doctor named Dr. Murray Hunter, who has a white paper essentially of 8 different types of imagination. So I've adapted that thinking to make it a little bit more applicable to this field, and that's what I want to share with you today. So back in 2018, we launched our cybersecurity academy with Belcan, and we started off with a technology school in Cincinnati. This is a link to the article that was posted. There are other articles out there. All of my links and my slides will be available after the talk. So don't worry about writing everything down right now if you're interested. So this year, we've had 250 students. There's 3 school districts involved, and we had interns that came in and students that came in to learn more about the program. One thing that we did to help get everybody on the same page is we did a pre-assessment. And what I mean by pre-assessment is we would ask the students a simple question: do you play video games? Now, depending on how they would answer, that would establish a baseline of how we could work with the student. So in that question, do you play video games? It depends on what platform you play. So someone who plays video games on an iPhone is going to have a different experience than someone plays it on a PC versus Linux. In the last 2 instances, they might have even built the computer that they're playing the games on. So that might show a different level of technical expertise or experience. So it's important to consider, what do I mean by imagination? I mean, what do you think of when you hear the word imagination? I like the definition that's on the slide. It's kind of put together from different versions of what I've seen. The ability to form a mental sensory experience that is not generated by perception. So that means meaning making or comparing different objects or concepts or creating narratives. And the reason why this is important to me is I grew up thinking that only people in the arts were creative. And my whole life, I've wanted to be creative. I wanted to be creative personally. I wanted to be creative in my career. And so it really kept me stuck for a long time. I thought my only option to enjoy a job was in a creative, quote unquote, field. And so personally, I always want to create more than I consume. And I just didn't know that I could still be creative and to be in a field like this at first. But I learned that I was very wrong. So this is an image of how my mind works. I'm always looking for connections. I'm always looking for the way that systems work. And I approach cybersecurity the same way. I tried to I tried to bring in to the way that I work, my background as an artist and as a creative person. One person that helped me tremendously with this was my wife, Cynthia. So she's helped me and my family a great deal. She's kind of like a life coach. She encourages us to be who we are and to be whole people. So to do that, we've set goals as for the summer and in general to be productive, active, creative, spiritual, and community goals. And the reason why this is important to me is I think a lot of people are really unaware of their true creative potential. So these are the 8 types of imagination that I'll be talking about during this talk. We have creativity, theorizing, fantasy, empathy, strategy, soft skills, dreams, and memories. Imagination is constructive. It can also be passive, or it can be active. These 8 types of imagination are adopted from Dr. Murray Hunter, like I said before, and he outlines how imagination can synergize new concepts and ideas. It can consider and develop hypotheses. It can create stories. It can empathize, strategize, and reconstruct memories. And it does more. So we'll talk about all of these in depth as we go forward. So how does imagination apply to the field of cybersecurity? One way I think it applies is we're always learning. I track what I learn. I keep a list, a learning list, and I revise it constantly. And the other thing is there's more than one way into cybersecurity. There's not one path. So it does tend to allow a lot of interpretation for doing things a lot of different ways. And this is a diagram of how I work. Um, one example of this is the way that I cook. My family has a love-hate relationship with the way that I cook food. When I'm hungry, what I do is I typically open up the refrigerator and I pull out everything that could be eaten. And then I assemble some kind of hopefully edible meal from that. And it's not the perhaps best way to do it, but it's the way I do it. And I approach my work the same way. I'm looking at how things fit together and I'm trying to imagine a good way forward. So the first bubble is creativity. I look at creativity as connecting the dots, making connections, combining information. And when we had our students as interns, this is what they would do is they would come into the SOC, Security Operations Center, and it wasn't long before they were able to make connections from what they read and what they were experiencing. And then they would make connections with different domains. But when it really changed is when they started making connections to attacks that they'd seen at home. And at that time, they were able to personalize it. And what we were doing went to a whole nother level for them. It's one thing to see an alert, but it's another thing to see the connections and understand it by connecting the dots. Theorizing is a type of intellectual imagination. Much of what we require, much of what we see requires making theories. And we take a look at a behavior and we figure out a best way forward. So one way of doing this is by thinking divergently and convergently. Divergently meaning that you're thinking of as many ideas as you can, and then convergently where you are taking all those ideas and determining what's the best idea to pursue. And you might not choose the best idea the first time, so you just iterate it. You keep doing it again and again. But thinking in a theoretical way is very important in information security. We gave our students tickets to investigate, and they would get very excited when they would find something malicious. It's one thing to see a bunch of false positives, but to see something malicious and to prove it's malicious, it's kind of a thrill. Fantasy. Fantasy is another type of imagination. And in this case, what we would do is tabletop exercises. They're essentially purple team where we are creating um, we're creating an event or creating a simulation of a possible threat. In most cases, what I would like to do is adapt them from something real world, like an APT group, something in the news that we might see, and then we would fit it to the context of our enterprise. So we would start with an alert, and from that alert, we would figure out what, uh, for example, what MITRE technique it might be closest to, like spear phishing. And so at that point, we walk through an incident response cycle. So by incident response, what I mean by that is detection, response, mitigation, reporting, recovery, remediation, and then lessons learned. So we go through that process for each of the scenarios that we're presenting, and we include the students in that so they can see how we would really operate on a potential threat or a potential investigation of something that would occur in a SOC. This type of imagination can be used other ways also, including social engineering. Empathy imagination. So we do a lot of security awareness campaigns, and we work very hard to avoid FUD. And what I mean by that is fear, uncertainty, and doubt. We want to give people tips that they can use at home and at work. We want to give people behaviors to learn about cybersecurity and cyber hygiene that they can use in real life. We want people to see us as being on their team and not against them. So imagination, using your imagination to understand others and to help them is what this type of imagination is about. It's also valuable in something like mentoring. Strategy is more of a pragmatic imagination. This is where you are imagining what could be. We taught our interns to protect their data with the same techniques that they were learning. We wanted them to strategize about how they would take care of something like their phone or their passwords or online accounts or social media. So that was another way that we could teach them how to think strategically about information security. Another way that we use this is we build out our strategy in our security operations center 1 and 3 years at a time. We're doing short-term and long-term planning, and that's difficult because we're trying to imagine what the next few years look like. And if you've been in this field for a little while, you'll know that that's a very difficult thing to get right. Another way I think this could be used is in dealing with an alert or a incident, because a lot of them are very complex and require flexibilities of thinking. Soft skills, I think of this as emotional imagination. So this is using your imagination to manage yourself or to skillfully navigate through a social situation or with other people. So in this example, we have someone who came to us after knowing that they've been phished. And so a lot of times the person might feel embarrassed or they might be angry that they clicked on it. And what we do in these cases is we de-escalate and we assure them we're not mad at you. If someone is turning in a security situation to the security operations center, we really couldn't ask for more. That's why we're here. We work with the people who encounter different security situations and we work through them, we fix them. So this one's a little bit more difficult, I think. Dreams. And dreams to me are certainly on the passive side, so passive imagination. So we're talking about actual dreaming, daydreams. We're talking about imagination where you're free associating or where you're being uncritical. This is your unconscious imagination. There are some things that you're going to encounter that you just can't logic your way through. So I think this is best utilized when you harness this type of imagination in a different context. Like, how do you deal with a 0 day? How do you deal with some situation that you've never seen before and have no way of starting? I think this one might be the most controversial. So this is reconstruction imagination. I'm not saying that memories are imaginary, but what I am saying is that memories are not externally sensed, and so they do fit the definition of imagination that I used earlier. Information security is such a knowledge-rich field that we have to constantly work with our memories, and we constantly have to be able to see things that we've seen maybe 1,000 times before, but to see it with new eyes. So again, 8 types of imagination we're talking about: creativity, theorizing, fantasy, empathy, strategy, soft skills, dreams, and memories. Imagination is a catalyst. It creates action. There are some imagination pitfalls. So be on the lookout for this. Everything about imagination isn't good. Imagination is also a key component of worrying or projecting. It also interferes in maybe giving you a fixation of a particular idea or a way of doing things, or by, see, what was the other one? It also gets in the way when you have a bias. You might have a bias that you just can't see or get past. And this is when being in community with other people helps. So these are ways that we put imagination into action. We encourage job shadowing. We built individual education plans for our interns. We gave them many hands-on activities. We showed them our fishing workflow, and we got them involved in day one. And then this is key, we would dialogue through the analytical process. And then we included them in our tabletop exercises. This is also very important. When you're working with someone who's new to what you're doing, it's important to learn how they learn. So these types of imagination can also be used in things like shadowing or working with a mentor, building a lab, watching videos, taking something apart, studying for certifications, or following a to learn list. So we made a practice of regularly reviewing with our interns. And there was a time when we had 3 interns who learned 3 different ways. So for one intern, we gave him a computer system and had him take it apart and then put it back together. And he did a lot better doing hands-on types of activities. Another intern was very good at reading something and learning that way, so we gave him more book work. And the last intern worked well with doing projects. And so we gave him um, a project to do, start to finish, where there's a lot of flexibility in what he was able to do. So what I mean by incite the imagination is incite to move to action. Imagination precedes action. And this is so much bigger than information security. All of us are deeply creative and imaginative. So I want you to wake it up. This is a student. This is a quote from a student that participated in our program that was published in our local newspaper. And what I like about this is illustrating what I've been talking about. So students told us how much they liked the program, even though they didn't even really know what they were getting into when it started. But now they're learning a lot more than they thought they could. And what's interesting about this to me is this is low level fear, uncertainty, and doubt. And so we were the guides for the students and we helped them to see themselves differently, to see themselves in cybersecurity roles and to really um, generate more interest in going forward. Now, many of you have probably seen something like this before, but our interns quickly discovered that we were only showing them a small part of information security. We were showing them security operations, but besides that, we've got threat intelligence, risk assessment, vulnerability scanning, we've got security engineering, architecture. There's lots of ways into cybersecurity. And what I liked about the students is I quickly identified a lot of them had really great skills to build on. A lot of them really had developed threat modeling, risk analysis, and social engineering skills that would work very well in this field. We do plan to expand our program so we can offer students other entry points besides the Security Operations Center. So I want you again to incite the imagination next generation so they can see their future differently. One story that I love about this is we had a student's mom come in after the program to turn in a badge that hadn't been turned in at the last day. So she didn't interact with us, but she did talk to our receptionist at the front of the building. And she told her that neither she nor her son could have imagined this experience that they went through. Neither one of them had a context or an imagination for what cybersecurity actually is. It was completely off of their radar, and it really did change things for them. And that's what we're trying to do. A lot of students, a lot of people really would be interested in cybersecurity, but they just don't know how to imagine it. These are different ways that you can grow your imagination. And these are things that I practice for myself and practice for my family. I like the list, and these are some of the things you could do. Some things might be more interesting to you or work better for you than others, but do something boring. Read fiction, watch fantasy movies, listen to music without lyrics, journal, have stimulating conversations, ask questions, vary your routines, embrace chaos, be uncomfortable. So, what I think is important about imagination is that it has a bigger end result than I first thought it did. Imagination is also important with representation. So by representation, what I mean is this is much bigger than just skin color. We need a more diverse resource pool. One reason why I think imagination is failing is because lack of diversity of thought. And I've worked at places where they they suffered because of this. But together, we can imagine things differently. Our students need to see faces like mine and yours. If you're just getting started and you're not in an internship program and you're not doing cybersecurity right now, there are other ways in. You can watch videos. There are so many videos on YouTube and other sources. You could attend conferences. Ever since we have gone into kind of remote work because of COVID, I've been attending as many conferences as I possibly can. You can compete in CTFs. By CTFs, what I mean are capture the flags. Capture the flags are normally kind of pop-up events where you are working to hack or uncover or find information on systems. And it's a great way to learn. Or you could practice some cyber ranges. Cyber ranges are similar, but sometimes they're not competitive. They're just meant to give you tools. These two links I think are also very important. You can go to this link on GitHub for information security or hacking for noobs, and there's a conference list for 2020. I'm trying to get as many people in this field as I can. So feel free to reach out to me on LinkedIn, Twitter, or Discord after the talk. So I thought this was interesting. Minority representation within cybersecurity is a little bit higher than it is in the actual overall US workforce. So it's 26% versus 21%. But the thing is, it's not consistent representation across all domains or roles. For instance, I'm a security analyst, and in my field, 3% of the analysts are African American. We can be better, and the world's depending on us. So imagine change and take action. My slides will be available at this GitHub link, and also I will put them in the Discord. So I'm going to Discord after this. If you have any questions, just send them to me, and I'll be happy to answer. Thank you for your time.
Awesome. Thank you, Keith. Yeah, it's I can't say how much your slides are right up my alley and my thoughts when it comes to really growing the workforce in every way, right? The diversity of it, the just sheer accessibility. There's so many programs out there. I mean, I'm all for education.
Right.
I'm all for formal education, but there is a lot you can do without that too, right? The barrier to entry doesn't have to be as great as many people believe it to be. And
yes, absolutely. I'm still getting certifications and I'm still educating myself. I don't think it's something that one size fits all for sure.
Can you talk a little bit about that, like your thoughts on, again, big supporter of professional education and everything else, but there are so many opportunities to get past that barrier of entry with the certifications, with there's a number of training programs out there. I've got one of my own that I've been pushing on the side, not part of GRIM, but nonprofit kind of thing. Can you talk a little bit about your thoughts on that and kind of where you see pushing other people into, especially into the jobs that have the lower barrier of entry?
Sure. So one thing I really like about that document of the cybersecurity domains is there's a
Mhm.
lot of things that you might enjoy doing.
Yeah,
And I'm a big fan of just learning more about how you operate and what space you should be in. So the way I look at certifications is they're kind of like a syllabus.
mhm.
It's a plan, a method of learning something that you really want to learn more about. And I've continued to pursue certifications. I've continued to want to grow in what I'm learning. So I like them that way, as a plan, as a way of being accountable to moving forward, as a way of being able to test your skills. I don't recommend getting certifications for things you're already doing necessarily.
Yeah.
I always try to kind of put a carrot in front of me and move toward a different direction. And my mentor told me that. And so I do agree with that.
Yeah, I had a mentor say something similar to me. I was doing something, so I have a technical background, but obviously, so I'm the CEO at Grimm, so I do business things, and I run two other organizations as well. But my heart and my passion is really in technical things and getting into the technical space, specifically in cybersecurity. And there's a lot of great programs out there too. There's a what's the Retrain America, I believe, came
Right.
up earlier this year. So actually, Grimm is a partner and sponsor in that, and that's a great program because they're helping uh, people from all walks of life. You know, janitors, bus drivers, taxi drivers, etc. Jump in and work on an aptitude program, and then many people have the aptitude to work in this business. They just don't stick with
Absolutely.
it. They just don't. Just because they don't have any experience or don't know, the fundamentals, it doesn't mean they don't have the aptitude. And so I love pushing the idea that there's so much more that you can really get involved in. Um,
Right, right. One of the ways that I got in is I was at a practice for my son. He was doing archery, and
mm,
somebody came up to me and saw me studying and offered me to use routers, like Cisco's equipment. And then
that's
from
great.
there, I eventually got a scholarship through Cisco to learn CCNA cyber ops, and that's what really got me interested in this.
That is
So,
awesome. Well, I definitely want to link you up to the foundation, and to my staff over there, because they're looking for more people to get involved with them and to help really push this message out in a number of other ways. So if you just ask one of the staff that's been working with you, getting ready for the presenting, they'll get you my email address. Let's sync up. I'd really love to get you connected with the foundation as well.
absolutely, that sounds fantastic.
Thank you. Thank you so much,
Thank you,
Keith.
Brian.
Have a great one.
Thank you. Have a great day. Thank you.
And you're going to be in Discord for questions, you said?
All right, I'm hopping over to Discord in just a few minutes.
Awesome. Great. All right, everyone. Ask your questions of Keith and the other presenters in the Discord channel. From what I understand, I've been loosely watching it. There's quite some activity over there. And there's also actually one that, Keith, you might want to check in too. There's also a resume and careers group within our Discord environment as well. And so there's people asking questions and asking for resume reviews and asking for advice. So, given your talk, you might have a lot of interest there too.
Yeah, I'll definitely check it out. Thank you.
All right, thank you. All right, and I